Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Jones. Welcome to interCHANGE, and thank you so very much for joining us. What an interesting week it has been. One state Supreme Court justice accuses another of putting a chokehold on her. Milwaukee Public Schools notify hundreds of teachers they're being laid off and tries to put a big chunk of the blame on Governor Walker and his budget. And we'll talk about how Summerfest has changed over the years and whether, as you get older, does it become less appealing. All right, let me introduce everyone. We have newspaper columnist Joel McNally. Kevin Fischer, longtime broadcaster, political analyst, and oftentimes a fill-in host over on WISN Radio. Denise Callaway is the coordinator of business and community partnerships for the Milwaukee Public School System. And Gerard Randall, education consultant and local job creation expert. Rick Horowitz will be along with commentary at the end of the show. All right, the first thing we'll talk about is the accusation by State Supreme Court Justice Ann Walsh Bradley that fellow Justice David Prosser put her in a chokehold during an argument. Others say Prosser simply put his arms up when Walsh Bradley came at him with her fist in the air. Now, two different agencies are investigating this thing. Who knows how it'll come out? It would appear that one of the judges is either lying, Gerard, or greatly exaggerating. One of the two.
I wanted Joel to have that one.
I do too, don't worry.
He'll get his chance.
Talk about
He'll
this
get
the
his
whole
chance.
half hour.
Well, the truth is no doubt somewhere in between. All of the justices that were present, only one, Justice Crooks, was not there, seem to be pretty close-lipped about it. And that leads me to believe that neither version that's hit the press is accurate. One thing that is disturbing, though, is that some kind of altercation took place between the two justices, and it's representative of the kind of disharmony that now exists on that court. And it doesn't seem as though there's any near opportunity for that to be resolved. Someone had remarked, and I think they may have made it as a flip remark or an offhand remark, that perhaps they needed mediation. And I do believe that they do need mediation of some type because the personalities have probably gone back to their respective corners, and they're just prepared to duke it out again in some other arena. And it will be to the disadvantage of the public that occurs. Sides that are intractable around public policy that won't find any way to come together. And that's the unfortunate part of all of this. There is a public downside to all of this, and that's how policy is shaped by the court. And people trying to read the court are going to walk away fairly confused as to what direction this court is going to take.
You know, without making any judgment about either of the judges, it's embarrassing for the state of Wisconsin just to have this kind of a story in the media.
Of course it is.
Even if it didn't happen.
And truthfully, I don't think it's any secret that Justice Prosser has an anger management problem. It's come out before. It came out when he was in the legislature. It came out during the campaign when there was this description of him attacking the Chief Justice and calling her a total bitch, and he was going to destroy her. And even some during his campaign, he came across as extremely an angry, unpleasant man. And I kept saying during the campaign, if more people had seen the debates, I don't think there's any way he would have been reelected. And now it's getting physical. I mean, we say it's a he said, she said, but it's really not, because actually in the Journal-Sentinel on the weekend, there were two people quoted about what happened. One who supported Prosser, claiming that he somehow, Justice Bradley threw her neck into his hands, which it seems like an absurd thing. But the other one said that Justice Prosser put his hands on her throat in anger. And that justice, whoever that was, these were both anonymous quotes, whoever that justice was actually was one of the conservatives on the court, because that justice described Prosser as, first of all, angering Bradley because he had attacked the Chief Justice. Now, unless Shirley Abrahamson calls herself the Chief Justice, like athletes talking about themselves in the third person, that was one of the conservatives who said that was really over the line. It is kind of appalling that unanimously the justices who were there haven't come out together and said, this is way over the top. This is way out of hand. These are supposed to be responsible adult justices on a Supreme Court, and they're going to divide over what happened on party lines? That is absurd. They're supposed to be decent people.
If you watch the ambush sandbag interview done by Fox 6,
I did.
The answer by the justices is, we're not commenting because there is an investigation that is still underway.
Right.
And that's another angle of this story, beyond the he said, she said, who attacked who, whether a man can ever defend himself against an angry, charging woman.
It was her office, and she said, get out, and he didn't leave.
Well, you know, I've known, I was going to talk about the yellow journalism angle, but since you brought that up, I've known Justice Prosser more than anybody else here on this panel. I've known him since back in his Assembly Speaker days. And I got to tell you, Joel, I know him to be far different than the personality you just described.
Did you see him explode on the floor of the legislature?
Did
you?
99% of the time, this is a very mild-mannered, almost, and I say this with respect,
Did you see him angry?
Milk toast type individual. He's 5'5", soaking wet, maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. I can't imagine, and none of us were there. I can't imagine this guy.
You didn't answer the question. Did you see him angry, explode in anger on the floor?
I did not. I did
because
not.
I've seen videos of it.
But I'm telling you that I've known him for
when he attacked
20 years,
Carpenter?
and I have known him to be very, very mild-mannered. And I just can't see him being this type of individual. It is embarrassing. It is awful because this isn't a basketball playground. These are private offices of the state Supreme Court. You do have highly charged personalities. You do have highly charged political ideologies. Those things will never change. But I don't think this elevates to the point where criminal charges are issued. I don't think the Judicial Commission, whatever their recommendation is, it goes to who? The state Supreme Court,
exactly.
where you have two members who are involved in an altercation. Right. You have 4 other members who saw whatever happened. Nothing will ever come to this. You just hope that they will be adult professionals and will be able to move beyond this and act appropriately.
Now some people are saying that this is because we elect the Supreme Court judges and politics has become so divisive in Wisconsin that this is the result. So maybe we should go back to the point where the governor appoints the justices.
That's crazy. What does this have, what does, whether they're elected or appointed, have to do with people acting like professionals and acting like adults? You could go through the process of appointing folks, but if you have people who don't have not even judicial temperament, but adult temperament, then that's a problem, whether they're appointed or whether they're elected. The 5 of us on this panel may never know exactly what happened in the justice's office that day. But we do know that, and what concerns me, is that both of these situations have involved female members of the court. No male members of the court, female members of the court. I don't know how we can call someone, mild-mannered when he admits that he told the Chief Justice that she was a total bitch. I don't think you're very mild-mannered if that's the kind of language that you use. There is clearly such rancor among the members of the state Supreme Court that they are bordering on being ineffective in terms of what needs to be done in terms of this state. To have the court as divided as it is, clearly along political lines, I think allows people to accurately ask not whether or not the court should be appointed, but can this particular court function? I think that's the question.
I think it jumped the line from being simply political to now being driven by personalities, and they've sided with each other based on their personality.
Well, there's also a question of whether or not whether the leadership of the state Supreme Court is effective or not, because you have a Chief Justice who isn't liked by either side of the aisle. She has problems with justices on both sides of the political spectrum.
The issue is not whether or not you're liked by someone.
Exactly. If you're the leader, it is a big deal.
No, it's not. It's not a big deal. The issue about someone being Chief Justice is whether or not you are able to perform your responsibilities and your duties based on everyone involved acting like professionals. That is not happening on our state Supreme
Well, the
Court,
big
and it's a
question
big
is,
problem.
despite the World Wrestling Federation angle of this, does the High Court get its job done?
No.
I think by and large,
They don't even uphold the law.
I think by and large, they do get their jobs
They
done.
told the legislature
These
it
are,
didn't
these
have
are
to
pretty
uphold the
sharp
law.
individuals, and no, what happened here was wrong, but that's the key question. Do they get the job done? And if you don't think they do, then vote them out.
All right, next topic. This week, the Milwaukee Public School District sent out layoff notices to more than 500 employees, most of them teachers. It also said nearly 500 vacant positions would not be filled. They blame this in large part on cuts in state aid, but others are blaming the district itself for giving the union teachers a labor contract which didn't require them to pay into their pension system. Now, the district wants the union to make some voluntary post-agreement concessions, which the union isn't very receptive to. Denise, there's a lot of blame to go around in this one.
Well, I think the one thing that nobody's talking about, at least we haven't yet on this panel, is the impact that all of this is going to have on kids. But let's take a couple steps back and clarify some things. When we take a look at what happened to the district lost $84 million in state funding, $50-some million in state aid, another $20 million in categorical aid. That is money that was lost to the district. It's not coming in. The issue on the contract is that the teacher's contract was settled long before any of these issues arose on the part of Governor Walker's recommendations on what needed to happen around collective bargaining. And in fact, the district, for the first time with this new contract, was able to get teachers to pay into their health care. So the idea that we didn't ask for the pension piece is the reality is that pension piece was not on the table when we settled the contract with the teachers, because that was done back in October, November. So the issue that we have is we have lost this money. The board and the superintendent have asked, and now as we're taking a look at this 5.8% pension piece, have asked teachers if they will go back, and ask the union if it will go back and actually do kind of a side agreement, so it doesn't even have to reopen the contract, to bring in that 5.8% pension payment, which would allow 200 of those teachers' jobs to be saved. And the union has said that it's already given enough. So those jobs are gone. And unlike last year, as we took had the opportunity with some ARA money that came in and some things that could be done for some of those jobs to come back, we don't have that this year. Those jobs are gone. They are not coming back. So I think that there's lots of blame to go around. You can point to the loss that we saw from the state in terms of state support. You can point to the fact that the union perhaps could have done something to help save some jobs. You can point to the fact that Wisconsin has a school funding formula that at its heart is flawed. You can point to the fact that we're taxing on our tax levy for about $70 million for non-MPS schools, for charter and for vouchers. There are all kinds of reasons you can point out there's a problem. But the issue is we have these teachers and other staff who are now gone, and it's going to mean larger class sizes for kids. It's going to mean less art, less music, less physical education. So what's happened here has been in large part driven by the loss of that state aid. You can't lose $84 million and not feel it somewhere.
And then again, we kind of hear this story every single year. June, they lay off people, and then August, they call them back.
Well, what makes this year so much different is that each year you're asked to do more with less. Each year we lay on a number of goals that students are expected to meet academically, that teachers are expected to meet professionally in the classroom, and there are fewer resources in which to deal with that. And you're still talking about working with 80,000 plus students and their families. No one wants to acknowledge all of those attendant problems that come into the classroom when those children cross the threshold in those rooms. And that we are working with students who have severe problems, teachers, many of whom in the district are fairly new. This year alone, when we look at the retirements and the number of people who left the profession or just transferred to other districts, you're talking at 45 principals out of 250 principals that will be new?
About 175, 176.
About 176. And so that number, the percentage is even greater than what I thought. That will be new into those buildings, and even newer teachers. The schools of ed are struggling to try to turn out some of the best teachers that can work in MPS, but fewer people are going into the profession as a career. This is the situation that the district is in. And in some of these ways, there are other districts around the state that are mirroring that are starting to raise their voices, like Green Bay, like Racine, like over in Beloit, Janesville. You can go up the Mississippi and you hit La Crosse and Eau Claire. Those communities are starting to raise concerns about all those things that Denise pointed out that have to be addressed. This is a very, very different year. And I think the next step that the governor and the legislature are going to have to take is to address some of those long-term problems that they will say were left on their desk, but exist nonetheless, that if they're not fixed, next year we're going to see more layoffs, greater expectations, and worse results.
Kevin, I was talking to a state legislator the other day. He said, I've been up here 20 years, and there's never been a year where MPS wasn't complaining they weren't getting enough money.
It's never enough, and the state has been very generous despite this budget and all the complaints you want to make about it. The state of Wisconsin has been, above the national average in spending per pupil, spending period. Now, I empathize with the superintendent who reached out to the teachers union and said, look, please, on behalf of your membership that you are supposed to represent, take a few more concessions so that we don't have to lay off 200 teachers. But what did the union leadership selfishly do? It cut off its nose to spite its face, and because they wouldn't budge, because they were selfish, because they were greedy and wouldn't take the same moves that other school districts around the state are doing and are handling their economics just fine, you have 200 teachers now who have no jobs. I think it's disgusting that a union would hang out its own membership to dry, to basically screw them.
But the union says we've given enough.
Well, look what they did. In November, they gave $100 million. This is not a selfish union. This is a union that has already given up $100 million.
Tell that to the 20
and now you're saying give up some more. Yeah,
tell it to them.
This is not negotiation when you say your choice is either take additional pay cuts or we'll lay off your members.
But
I know what I would say. I know what I would choose.
It's not negotiation, it's reality.
Let me tell you what reality is. The reality is this union has given and given and given. You want to hire professional people to teach our children, right? We want to have good teachers, right? And so what are we doing? We are cutting their benefits. We are cutting their salaries, and repeatedly. They gave $100 million. I want to say something about. I want to say something about the pensions. Do you know that the teachers have already paid 100% of those pensions? We're saying the teachers don't pay anything into their pensions. The teachers have already paid 100% of those pensions. During negotiations over the years, they gave up raises in wages and said, put that money into our pensions instead. So they did. And that's why, there's those pensions sitting there. And now you say, well, you're not putting anything else in.
Every nickel that they put in the past and that they get going forward, they get back 100%.
That's
correct.
I
hope so. Right. They should. That was the deal. The deal was they would get pensions for giving up all those raises. Now you want to take more money away from them.
So it's interesting. You have no empathy or have not described any for the 200 teachers that have been laid off.
We should start treating our teachers professionally.
The only sympathy you've raised here is for the union.
We should start treating our teachers respectfully. We should not say every time you have to give up more, you have to give up more, you have to give up more.
We should respect them, and that includes.
Sometime we have to give them raises, we have to give them pensions, we have to give them
that
help.
200 people will not be thrown out into the street.
Well, that's the choice. You either cut all your pay, or we're going to throw more people out
if
into
I'm
the
one of those
street.
200, I know what I would choose.
All right, next topic, a little bit lighter. It's fair to say that Summerfest is one of Milwaukee's biggest assets, as well as one of the things that this city is most famous for. Every year, they tweak it a little bit. They make a few changes to the grounds. They raise some of the prices. But as you get older, I wonder, does it get a little less appealing to go down to Summerfest? And if so, why is that? You still go down a lot.
I still go down there. I've
He's
gone
young
down.
at heart.
I think in all the years of Summerfest existence, I've only missed maybe 3 years. Last night I was down there, and
Hellraiser.
I was served by the bartender who served me my first drink as a freshman at Marquette 40 years ago. It was a reunion moment for me. I can always figure out something.
For him too?
Well, for him too. He remembered.
Who could forget a customer like you?
They've taken great pains to refresh the atmosphere down there, either by making sure that whatever the big national talent is that's traveling, it comes to Summerfest. Whatever the latest craze is, like the flash mob craze. They had a couple of flash mob incidents down there that were planned. Those kinds of things make Summerfest a unique gathering place. You can't find better entertainment at a cheaper cost and a reunion atmosphere for friends and family. I just think it's a wonderful asset for the city. And it's good that at least the leadership in this city sees it the same way and continues to make investments in making those grounds permanent and attractive.
I do find it surprising when people complain, oh, it's gotten so expensive. I mean, it's only $15.
Right.
And there's a deal every single day if you can get down there early and bring a can
Right.
of food or a coupon. I think it is a tremendous deal.
It is, and I think you've got such a variety of music that you can listen to. I mean, I would certainly pay $15 to be able to see George Clinton. I mean, I think that's a pretty good deal. So, I mean, I just think that it has done, as Gerard said so well, they've done a great job of continuing to update the grounds, making them fresh, keeping them new, keeping them clean. I mean, which is remarkable when you think about the number of people that are down there on any given day, the tens of thousands of people. They've been able to come up with a formula that they've been able to keep going, update and refresh, that makes it something that primarily I think is attractive for people who are under 40. But for those of us who are over 40, there's still some things there. Well, thank you.
I wasn't referring to you.
But I think they are taking steps to make it more appealing to older people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they aren't shooting for the million anymore. They want
Right.
people to come down,
Right.
spend a little more money, eat at Saz's fine dining area.
Yeah, they seem to be doing some upgrades in the food, and it's not just all fast food anymore. And, at the same time, to me, it is a young person's festival,
Yeah,
and that's when I used to go every night. Believe me, I can't get around there like I used to. But I got to say, over the years, you know, there've just been great memories of the place.
Yeah.
Some of them have been pretty
Foggy.
foggy and hard to remember. Hard to remember, but I mean, you know, whether we're talking about George Carlin or we're talking about you know, Willie Nelson wearing a chicken hat or what, you know, one of the best shows I ever saw down there. I was amazed because I actually went early to watch the band that came on before them, so I could be sure and get a good seat. And the band that came on them, it was like a local cover band of the Doors or something. It wasn't all that hot. And as soon as they were done, everybody left. And then I saw one of the best shows of my life, which was Levon Helm and the All Stars.
Sometimes the side stages are better.
Are better.
And this
I would
move
agree.
To close on Monday, I think at first I didn't like it. I think it's brilliant. I think they're going to make a lot of money because of it.
All right, well, you know, there are crowds and then there are crowds. And if you think it's hard getting around the Summerfest grounds this week, well, it could have been worse. You could have been on an airplane at a certain airport in New York. Here's Rick Horowitz.
The pilot looked down from his cockpit one morn, all prepared to depart JFK. But moments before he could give it the gas, he saw something crawl out of the bay. "There's a terrapin crossing the runway," he cried. "There's a turtle that's making a break. It's very determined, no smile on its face. If only it knew how to pick up the pace. There's a diamondback taking my space. The tower crew heard the man's call of alarm, for they knew of his plight all too well. The season when old Mother Nature sings out, and it's always on runway 4L. There's a terrapin outside your window, they said, and another one right near your wheels. A dozen or two of a similar kind on a similar path, only slightly behind. Hold position, sir, if you don't mind. The pilot considered the turtles below. He, like they, was quite often hard-shelled. The timetable mattered, but conscience did too. He could not let them be jet-propelled. Help those terrapins ramble the runway, he said. I'll sit tight till the last one is gone. We're all in a hurry, but they're rushing too. It takes them a while, but they've plenty to do, so I'll wait, if it's okay with you. Then runway 4L was a turtle parade with 100 or more on the move. You've never seen anything nearly as fine as those diamondbacks getting their groove. Cheer the terrapins crossing the runway, we say. Cheer for fortitude, instinct, and pluck. With heads held so proudly and 4 stubby legs, they're off to the beach to deposit their eggs. Here's to holes and to turtle-shaped pegs.
Well, thanks, Rick, and thank you so very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great 4th of July.